spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with the Scarish podcast.
Woo! Also,
Wait, why we?
Someone requested that in our stream chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and toss that out there.
Thank you. I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're here to read you your homegrown horrors that you've sent us.
Indeed we are.
What's a homegrown horror?
What is a homegrown horror? You're asking me?
Yeah.
A homegrown horror is the spooky, creepy, paranormal, spiritual, sometimes coincidental, sometimes just very funny, or sometimes brush with true crime. Stories that you, your friends, or your family have that you're willing to share with us and not necessarily share with the entire group. But we adore it when you send them to us. When you let us read them on the show, we get super excited and we try and read every single one of them. And that's what a homegrown horror is, Robin. Where can people send those?
You can send them to us at storytime@scarish.com. And we would love and appreciate if you guys could send those to us. Ask your parents, your friends, your grandparents. Ask anybody in your family if they have some cool, scary-ish stories.
Also, scarish.com. You can click on Contact Us, or you can message them to us on our social medias. Facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. Tweet at us at ScarishPod. Instagram at ScarishPodcast. So yeah, those are the ways you can get homegrown horrors to us. And these episodes, the Storytime episodes, as Robin so beautifully put it at the beginning, and she always does, the episodes that we dedicate 100% to those. So I think we're going to jump in feet first, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. I'm going to go first. I'm going to volunteer to go first because something happened back in January. Someone reached out to us back in January via message. So they weren't like sending it to us in an email. They're like, I'm going to tell you this directly. And they said, so this stuff happened to me. And a lot of times when that happens, we assume it's private because they're not saying, hey, you can share this. Here's my homegrown horror. It just sounds like something that they're just telling us. They reached out to us and they said like, hey, have you read my story yet? And although that's not like my favorite thing to hear, I'm usually like, I'm pretty sure we have. This is the first time I've ever checked. And I'm like, oh, no, we haven't. And I was able to find it and let them know like, hey, I think it's because we weren't sure whether or not we were allowed to. So we err on the side of caution. If you ever send us something and forget to say you can read this or share this on the pod, probably just hit us up and let us know because we're probably going to put that in the like, oh, this one was a personal one sent to us and respond to you and then, leave it at that. So that is what happened here. So since this one is about 3 months behind, I cut it to the front of the line rather than put it at the back of the queue. So yeah. I'm going to lead with that one. I will say a lot of our stories this week are a little bit on the shorter side, but sometimes we do that and they wind up being really long episodes. So
cool.
I'm going to get going. So this first one is from Grace, and it is titled Wendigo Story. So I don't know how this didn't wind up on the show earlier, but it says, so Austin, I don't know who Austin is, just told me that before his best friend told him a story, he himself had experienced something like that, but he never told anyone about it because he didn't know the creature had a name in reference to the Wendigo. Now that it has happened to Will, so again, I don't know who this person is, he doesn't want anyone to think he's just copying. So basically this is a preface like, here's a story about a Wendigo. I heard about it through whatever. Don't think we're stealing it from someone else. Austin said he used to have his bed in the corner of his small room, and it was where he could see out both of his windows. Well, outside of one window, there's a tree. He used to see a creature standing in the tree just looking back at him.
You cut that tree down.
Right? Holy shit.
Or trim the branches, so you can't really...
Or load it with plastic explosives to get rid of it forever. Yeah, I see where you're going with this. My head's there too. It goes on.
My heart burns there too.
I hate you so much, but I really do like that movie. It's funny because like the last episode we did, the Atlantis/haunting episode, there was something I was talking about when I was talking about Atlantis, and Robin started to say something, and kind of as like a natural reaction, I was like, I hate you so. Oh wait, that was a really fucking good point. And I think it's funny because like I know a lot of people that kind of do that. They start responding before they actually hear what someone says. So it's one of those things where I was like, oh man, like I was just kind of mean to her and I really shouldn't have been. That was great. That was a great contribution.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to give you a little bit more credit because I think I referenced it on the episode, but yeah, sometimes that happens. So never feel bad giving someone an apology because I was an idiot. All right, gonna get back to the email. He and a friend used to walk into the woods by his house a lot. He said they walked back until there was a clearing. They would be talking to each other and something would talk back to them, mimicking their voices.
No.
Being kids, they thought it was kind of funny at first, but I think it started to get creepy. I don't think he really goes back there anymore. Probably a wise decision, I will say. What else?
That just reminds me of that episode of, okay, It reminds me of that episode of Doctor Who.
Shocker.
Where David Tennant goes on that train through the Crystal Valley, and there's
something that the mummy that only someone can see.
No.
I think of a different episode.
You're thinking of a different episode.
With a train.
So they get on this train, and it's going through a Crystal Valley, and someone or something gets on board and repeats everything everyone says. And it repeats everything everyone says.
It starts taking them over.
And it starts getting closer and closer and closer until it's saying it at the exact same time. And then people are like, well, who's the one that's...
I do remember that. The one I'm thinking of is when they can only see like a mummy coming for them, like right before they die. But each person, like right before they die, sees this apparition and no one else can see it. I don't know if that one's based on a train too. So I'm gonna have to go back and look up whichever one that one is. Someone out there is like,
Doctor Who all over again.
Someone out there is like, I know exactly which episode you're both talking about. All right, so the email finishes out like this. I swear to God, when he told me this story, I heard thudding on the roof a couple of times. He lives in a huge farmhouse that has a flat spot on top. Creeped me out. Maybe the Wendigo was standing up there. Creepy Twilight Zone music. LOL. Which makes me think a lot of the time I'd be in my room and clear as day, I would hear my mom call my name.
And oh my gosh.
I always asked what she needed from my room, but never got a response. So I'd walk downstairs to ask her why she called me, and she always told me, I never called you. I think we've all had that moment.
It's like that one creepypasta where it's like, I heard it too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or she wouldn't even be home. Wow, that's even scarier. I mean, she very well could have been fucking with me, but I doubt it. What if that was a Wendigo mimicking her voice? A lot of people claim to hear their mom yell for them. I don't know, creepy as fuck, and now I don't want to go outside alone at night, which is impossible since I work the night shift. So shruggy emoticon.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I think there's been a lot of times where people just think they hear their voice being called, and it's kind of a good like PSA to put out there that it's most likely some sort of creature trying to lure you to your death. So, yeah. I would say text the person that's calling you just to make sure.
Be like,
what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm scared. Stop calling my name. So good stuff. Good way to start the show, I think.
All right. This next email is the subject is obviously you can share this on the podcast, which is great.
Is that obvious?
No, obvious? It's not obvious to anyone but me that's reading. Okay.
Lots of people over in Stream Chat are shouting out Jason Momoa, so I'm glad to see that that's caught on. Maybe he'll start listening to our show.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Except you just made fun of Aquaman the entire episode.
I did not. I just said that Aquaman was a documentary. I didn't make fun of Aquaman. He made a boatload of money. It's so awesome for him. That dude was living out of the back of a van when they were filming parts of Game of Thrones. So now that he had like a movie make like $1.5 billion that's set on top of the box office, there's no actor who deserves that shit more than Jason Momoa. I'm just saying. Was not making fun of that movie.
He's making Momoa money.
Go ahead and read that email before I start hitting my head on this desk violently.
Okay, so it goes. Hello, Robin and Adam. My name is Maritza, pronounced M-E-R, so Mer-it-sa. I am 23 years old, and I live in Detroit, Michigan. I've been binge listening to your podcast for almost 3 months now. I literally listen all day at work from 6 to 2:30 p.m., so now I'm almost caught up. Once I'm all caught up, I'll probably listen to them all over again. Oh, you're so sweet.
That is very sweet.
Because they're all so good. I was supposed to send my story in last week, but every time I would remember, I would already be in bed and be scared as fuck to write it.
That's funny.
So here it goes. This happened maybe about 5 years ago. My uncle, who lives in Mexico, has been hooked on drugs for a long time now. No one really talks about it because I guess you could say our family is ashamed about it, which is totally normal. It's just sometimes your family members have problems and it's okay to talk about them sometimes. You know what I mean? You don't have to be ashamed of it. It's
I 100%
just,
agree
but that's
with that
normal
sentiment.
for families to be like,
sometimes you
let's
just
hide
prefer
this person because...
Yeah, sometimes like families are trying to be private, but instead they're just being shamed and like hiding shit.
Right.
Yeah, there's a very fine line to walk.
When my uncle is high, he wanders the streets in Mexico saying that he's possessed by a demon that tells him to hurt himself or his family. One time, he even knocked down a heavy light pole because of the supposed demon. But I call bullshit on the demon. It's just the stupid drugs. He always said that no one loves him or gives him attention. Anyways, one night, I was dreaming that I was at the mall with a couple friends. I got a phone call saying that my mom had given birth to my baby sister at home, but that I had to go home because the baby wasn't going to make it. That's depressing.
Wow, that's shocking.
So me and my friends were rushing to get home. When we get home, everyone except my uncle was gathered around the baby. The baby was in a coffin. That's a horrifying dream. With its head and one arm hanging out, still clinging to life. I asked what happened, and they said that the baby was poisoned. In my dream, my uncle was sitting far away from the baby in a dark corner. When I asked who had poisoned the baby, they said that my uncle had bit the baby.
Bit the baby?
Yes.
I'm debating. Okay, so this is a dream.
Yes.
It's not an actual event. So I'm going to go ahead and make the Austin Powers joke here, where it sounds like this guy was trying to eat that baby in your dream. Did he have a Scottish accent?
The baby started to throw up and died. As soon as I turned to my uncle, he turned into the devil and started to laugh, just like the devils laugh in movies. As soon as I heard that laugh, I literally sat straight up in bed, as Adam would say, like the Undertaker. I was breathing really hard and started to get nauseous. I ran to the bathroom and I puked. When I threw up, it looked just like the baby's puke in my dream.
Wow.
I later called my grandma in Mexico and told her about my dream, and she said that my dream was just trying to tell me how bad my uncle's addiction is. That's the end of the story. Sorry if it's bad grammar, you're fine. But I'm too scared to proofread it. So I hope it made sense, and I have more stories to tell you guys, so I'm going to send you another email with a different story. By the way, I just wanted to say that I love the podcast so much. I love the community and the relationship you guys have. Aw, thank you. I would send a picture of my own baby, but I don't have pets. Just a daughter that is in her terrible twos, so unless she counts. Anyways, have a nice day and keep on doing what you guys do. Much love, Maritza.
Thank you for sending that in.
Thank you so much. That's a really intense dream.
It is. There's a lot of things to unpack in this email. Like, the first thing I want to say is anyone who wants to show us pictures of their children...
You're allowed.
We would never tell you that your kids are omen babies by saying we're grouping them together with animals. So we might need a different hashtag for that. And I don't come up with those. Usually it's Robin who comes up with those. My hashtags are like hashtag don't eat ass, which didn't spread as much as I thought it would because apparently everyone out there is eating ass. But please send us pictures of your kids. Those are weird sentences to bump up against each other.
Oh, God.
But we don't mind at all seeing little human omen babies. So... we think they're adorable. We have nieces, so it's always a fun thing to share. And if they're always dressed up in spooky stuff too, that's something I think we all want to see. So aside from that, what do you got to say?
No, yeah. I mean, we love seeing kids. I mean, I know Carly has some twins, and her twins are absolutely adorable.
She also adopted cats as kittens.
Oh my goodness!
And
then one of them had a cat. One of them had a cat. One of them had a bunch of cats.
Yeah, those cats love her daughters, so she posts these like pictures that you think that she must be getting off of Google or something because they're just adorable.
Because their black cat follows one of her daughters to the school bus every day.
Yeah, she stands there and waits for the school bus and is looking, and the cat's standing next to her. I'm like, this is just the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Totally true. Getting back to the email. So I think it is one of those things where I think that's like something I say a lot of times, but it's just one of those things. I hate myself for it. That said, addiction is something that everyone deals with differently. And when you have someone that blames it on something else, that's probably the most common thing you'll see with people when they're struggling with their own addiction. So some people blame it on their religion. Some people blame it on demons. Some people blame it on their family members or their traumatic past. Lots of things. And it's not to say that they don't have trauma in their past that was like incredibly detrimental and definitely like fueled something like that. So it's a really difficult thing to deal with. And, I do think that your dream is definitely indicative, just like your grandmother said, of it probably just being on your mind and realizing like how traumatic that is and seeing it spill over into your family. And there's probably a lot you can read into that. But it's something too where you have to understand that like people that suffer from addiction, you shouldn't look at them as anything but like truly a victim, because like you're a victim of circumstance and you're a victim of a lot of things, usually a lot of trauma in your life, and then eventually you become a victim of your own shitty decisions, and you can be pissed off at them for the decisions they make. And I've dealt with this in my life, which is kind of why I wanted to take a step out to talk about it. And like I've been very, very angry at people like, you chose this, like you're going down this horrific path because you chose to go down it. But at the same time, you have to keep into perspective, like, yeah, they chose it when they were really fucked up, and it's really hard to stand by someone when they're really fucked up, but it's also incredibly important, and that said, there's also time that you have to understand that you do need to protect yourself and protect your family from someone who has like a severe addiction. But it's a fine line to walk, and anyone who's struggling with it, like, we sincerely hope that you find your path. And it's not an easy thing to do. So just going to say keep going. And to anyone dealing with someone in their life who is suffering from an addiction, just keep going. That's all you can really do, is just keep going. So just want to say that little bit of a serious note. So fun stuff, right? All right. My second email is holy hell. That's the subject. And it starts like this. It's short. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I just recently started listening to y'all's podcast / any podcast. So they're new to podcasts, which is exciting. So I have 2 stories. Before I get on to your stories, at the end of this email, I'm going to toss you some podcast recommendations depending on your interest. So just letting you know. So they have 2 stories. They were both when I was a lot younger than they were now. I'll also give context. For a long time, I hated bedtime. I think we all did. No one wanted to go to bed. Now it's like my favorite thing. I would cry and cry until I was able to sleep on the floor in my brother's room. I have no clue why. When I started sleeping in my room, I would stay up until everyone else went to bed. I also have no fucking idea why. One night, my brothers were doing stupid shit, and both my parents went downstairs to the living room to see what the hell was going on. After about 5 minutes, for some odd reason, I sat up. And I shit you not, I saw a black shadow figure walking into my fucking room and walk into my closet. Let's just say I had a very restless night.
Nightmares.
I want to know if you screamed and told your parents to check that closet, because, like, that's one of my biggest fears as a father. Like, when I eventually have kids, is the fact that I'm going to have to check on their boogeymen when really I want to hold them up as a shield so I don't get killed first. But, okay. Second story. The second one is my very first experience of sleep paralysis. I hadn't quite fallen asleep yet.
I bet the first time is always the worst time because you're like, what is going on?
It's the first time you ever experience it. You know what? It's kind of funny. I was just thinking, like, what was my first time? And I never remember it. I totally just remember it.
We're still talking about sleep paralysis, right?
Yeah, sleep paralysis. And you know what's funny? Like, don't keep that in the back of your head because it's going to get really gross if you think of that. The first time I had sleep paralysis, I went to spend the night at my uncle's house. So I used to sleep in his basement. And he told me, like, ghost stories before I went to bed. And then he told me, like, if you ever see something, like, first of all, you shouldn't want to see anything. Like, leave it be. But if you ever see something, don't ask it what it is. Don't talk to it. Just tell it to leave. And then he went upstairs, like, good night. I was like fucking 7, guys. Like, it was terrifying. So I was down in this basement, which was cold and dark, probably filled with spiders. I fell asleep on this couch, and I woke up and I had sleep paralysis. And it was completely dark, and I'm in this basement just listening, like, drips and pings of, like, a house settling. It was horrible. So I think it's kind of shocking for me that I forgot what my first sleep paralysis experience was. All right, getting back to yours. I hadn't quite fallen asleep yet. My brain was still on. I was hella stressed out from what I can remember. Then I felt someone or something breathing on my face. I, of course, opened my eyes, and I saw this face of a lady who had sharp teeth and sharp nails. Just thinking about the experience scares the shit out of me. She was on top of me. I felt her nails running up and down my arms and the weight of her on me. I don't know if this is for everyone. I don't know if it is this way for everyone when they experience sleep paralysis, but I did. The more I tried to move, the more I felt this pressure on my eyes. Then it disappeared as fast as it appeared.
I think that's pretty common, seeing someone sitting on you.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why it's called old hag syndrome. So.
The idea of it getting worse as you try and struggle against it, I also think it's kind of like the quicksand effect, where, like, people try and tell you to relax and try and, like, work your way out of it. Like, they even do that in The Haunting of Hill House, where, like, Nell's boyfriend, like, tries to teach her, like, how to get out of sleep paralysis. You have to calm down.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where, especially when you panic, and you always panic the first time you have sleep paralysis, it's something where, like, yeah, it's going to be traumatic, and it's going to be even worse because you're, like, clenching up and seizing up so much and trying so hard to move. So sleep paralysis is scary shit. So.
All right. So I'm going to get into my next email here because it's a fairly long one, and I hope you guys will stick around to listen to it because there's a lot to it. This one is from Todd, and the subject is sleepy time episodes. So I'm going to assume lots of bad dream things.
Or these are just going to be super cool dreams.
Maybe.
Probably not. I mean, it is our show, but we'll see.
It goes, Heyo.
Heyo.
I've been meaning to send you my short stories for quite some time. A little over a year ago, I got my first car and was able to drive my boyfriend Desmond and myself to university, about 3 hours away from home at Penn State in Pennsylvania, USA. We do not have the same taste in music, so he suggested listening to a podcast to pass the time and found Scary-ish on Spotify. Oh, yay!
Shout out
That's
Spotify.
great. I've been listening ever since. Thank you for keeping me awake during these long drives. Desmond always falls asleep. I have 3 short-ish stories I wanted to share. Feel free to read them on the pod. They are all sleep related. The first one is titled "The Old Woman Behind Me." Ever since your first episode, I've been fascinated with sleep paralysis.
A lot of sleep paralysis stuff
This one
episode.
also has Haunting at Hill House.
References?
So, yes.
Cool.
I have friends who have experienced it and have heard many stories, though I've never experienced it myself until after I watched The Haunting of Hill House. Chills. That's what is written.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was your reaction to it.
Chills. Literal chills.
Literal chills.
I absolutely love the show, and I was excited to hear that you guys watched it too, multiple times. We really like that show. It's really good.
We watched it all the way through on our trip to San Jose to go to the Winchester Mystery House. Before we went to the Winchester Mystery House, we watched, 7 episodes of that? Mm-hmm. Because Liz, Robin's sister, had not seen it yet. So we're like, yeah, it's this cool, chill show. We should check it out before we go to this supposedly giant haunted house.
Yeah.
And Liz is just like, what the hell are you guys making me watch?
Anywho, I was sleeping next to Desmond in his dorm room when I dreamed about a strange old lady with long white hair who was laying next to me in the dream. I rolled over to face away from her, and when I woke up, I was facing Desmond's back. I was half asleep and still felt like the old woman was right behind me on the bed. So I tried to move, but could not. Ooh, just imagine that feeling where you're laying there and you just feel someone laying behind you, but you know the person you're supposed to be with is in front of you. I would freak out.
You're like, who in the hell is in this bed with me?
I only spoon one way. No double spoons.
Oh, you don't want to be the sandwich in a spoon sandwich?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the cream in the Oreo?
No.
That sounded pretty gross considering what we're talking about. Let's get back to it.
All right. It is gross. Thanks for that nightmare. I started to silently panic until I remembered that what Nellie's husband told her what to do in the show. That is awesome. I realize it's nothing more than a dream that I am now awake from. I then felt a hot breath exhale on the back of my neck. It felt so real, as if there was actually a person breathing on my neck. All the panic came back tenfold. I have chills, dude. Chills. Literal chills. My mind was fighting to get my body to move, and I was desperately trying to call out Desmond's name to wake him up. The only sound I could make was a mumble of his name. Since I couldn't move my mouth and it wasn't enough to wake him up, I started to tear up before my 6 a.m. alarm went off on my phone, and suddenly I could move again. It was like the alarm woke up my body. Desmond woke up too, and I proceeded to give him shit for not hearing me calling him to help me. He is usually a light sleeper, and I was pissed he didn't notice my silent struggle. It's hard.
It really is.
When you're having sleep paralysis, like, I mean, Adam tries to wake me up, and it's not happening. So
I have woken you up in the past, though. There's been a couple of times where, like, I've been able to croak out some words. It's like, shake me. And, like, you'll shake me. Like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like you rescue me. But it's very, very, very rare that happens. Usually you're just sawing logs over there. Like,
well, I remember I was playing Battlefield when it first came out, and Adam was choking. He was choking on food or something, and I was in the middle of a fucking...
Oh, yeah, I was awake. This isn't a sleeping story.
This isn't a sleep story. He was eating food behind me. I was playing Battlefield.
I was next to her.
I was in the middle of a match.
Behind her.
And, well, you were eating behind me, but then you came up next to me, started stomping, and, like, I'm fucking choking.
I was waving at her and smacking shit, and, like, she's not paying any attention, so I had to step between her and the TV, like, I'm about to die. Please fucking help me. Robin does this thing. So I don't know how many of you had dealt with this when you were a kid, but you're like, hey, Dad, Mom, look what I'm doing. It's cool. Look. And they never look. And you call for like 30 fucking seconds. They decide, I'm not going to look at that kid. Fuck that kid. Like, Robin is going to be that parent. You know how I know? Because anytime I do anything, I'm like, hey, babe, it's too late. And no matter what she's doing, she could stop and just look away really fast and look back to see if it's something that catches her interest. She's like, no, fuck that guy. And she does it to me all the time. Like, our dog was like standing up doing the cutest thing to me the other day. And I'm like, oh my God, she's so cute. Like, look at her. Look what she's doing. Like, look right now. Like, Namiria, like, mommy won't look at you. And I'm like, just waiting. And it was like 15 seconds passed. And then she got down. I'm like, it's gone. She'll never see it. And then she looked up like, huh? What? Just like, man, I hate you. So yeah, I empathize with you, person that wrote in, when a person like does not hear you when you're screaming at them. But
I saved his choking life.
At least you, yeah, she did eventually pat me on the back and save my life.
No. I was like, Heimlicking you, man.
She hit me, but she like, when you're choking and something's like in your windpipe, like Robin's like karate chopping me, like on the ball of my neck, like I'm trying to break your spine. Why won't it come out? And then I think she did Heimlich me.
Yes, I did. And you are like thick chested. So I'm like,
this is when I was still skinny-ish too.
Oh,
so
my God.
She could get her arms around me fairly easily.
all right. Anyway, continuing on. I haven't experienced sleep paralysis since, and I hope I never do again. I was glad I was facing Desmond's back this time so I couldn't see anything. I don't want to imagine what creepy shit my mind would have showed me if I had a view of the dark room. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's super scary. The next one is called Toothpick Nightmare. Ooh, I already don't like this one. I'm just like imagining a toothpick getting stuck in my throat or something. Ugh. For many years when I was younger, I've had this same nightmare every now and then, that I was walking in a line unable to control my body. Also, my body was not a human body at all. It was a toothpick. As funny as it is now, it was terrifying in the dream.
You're like Forky from Toy Story 4.
Why am I alive? We need to watch that movie.
We do need to go see that.
Amy went to see it. She said it's great.
Really?
Yeah, we should
I'm not
watch it.
shocked that Toy Story is excellent.
I could see that further up the line, other toothpicks were walking straight into flames of what I could best describe as a giant furnace machine thingamabob. It's probably...
So this is Toy Story 3 shit now.
Yeah. I would always wake up getting too close to the furnace. I remember always waking up with a sweat and a quick heartbeat because I knew I was going to die if the dream continued. When I was about 11 or 12, my older sister Tara and I were visiting our dad who lived in Thailand with our two younger siblings, Taryn and True. Tara and I lived in the Philippines, #Aswang, at the time with our mom. His new house had just been built. My dad loves open spaces, so this house is very spacious and very, very dark and spooky at night. That's horrifying. I used to watch a lot of Filipino horror movies, and those are scary. Tara's bedroom was on the second floor, while mine was on the first, since I had a history of sleepwalking and other sleep activity. Okay, so they were like, since you sleepwalk and weird things happen to you during your sleep, we're putting you on the first floor. That way you don't hurt yourself, probably.
Smart.
The first night in this huge house, I was scared, so I punked out and went upstairs to sleep in my sister's room.
That's funny.
She let me stay as long as I slept on the floor because there was apparently no extra space on her king-size mattress.
Wow.
Sisters, right? An important note to this story is that the bathroom door in my sister's room is directly across from the bed. The last thing I remember clearly of that night was trying to fall asleep on the uncomfortable hardwood floor. The next thing I knew, I woke up on the bed in the middle of the night. The orangey bathroom light was on with the door wide open across from the bed. Oh, and my sister was in the corner of the room staring at me with a terrified look on her face. What? She proceeded
Things just got super creepy super
she
quick.
She proceeded to say with a shaky voice, "Are you awake? Are you really awake?" I said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I'm awake, you weirdo. What are you doing there?" Then I started to remember my dream and the pieces of reality that got mixed in. It was the toothpick nightmare. Only this time it was a little different. It started how it always did. I was walking in a line toward flame-filled death, unable to control my own useless toothpick body. Only this time, I walked all the way to the front of the line. The giant furnace was right in front of me, the bathroom light in real life, and I was desperately trying to gain control of my body and get away, but something was holding me in place. My sister in real life was trying to keep me still on the bed while I was freaking out. That's when I woke up and she backed up to the corner of the room. In the morning, my sister told me it started when I got up to use the bathroom and left the light on in the bathroom with the door wide open. I'm pretty sure I was sleepwalking because I have no memory of this. This was the last time I ever had the nightmare. It was also hilarious. My sister got a good scare from it too. It's
what you get. That's all I'm saying. You didn't let her sleep on the bed. It's a king-size bed.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
I'm pretty sure the uncomfortable floor triggered the sleep episode.
Uncomfortable sleep
Karma's
triggers
a
sleep
bitch.
paralysis for me, and it used to trigger nightmares when I was a kid. That is 100% legit. That's all I'm saying.
Karma's a bitch. Should have let me sleep on the bed. Legit. This last one is called Lucid. That sounded like a sales pitch. Like this.
It really did.
It's titled Lucid Dream Backfire. In my second year of university, I was asleep and having a dream when it occurred to me that I was dreaming. When I became self-aware, I was careful not to wake myself up because I wanted to have some fun trying to manipulate my dream world. I never want to be in that situation because I feel like bad things can happen to you.
I used to do it all the time, like actively trying to do it. And there's certain things I could do and certain things I couldn't do. Like there's blocks on me in my dreams, like I wasn't able to do it. Mm-hmm. And I still to this day when I'm dreaming can just move stuff to my hand. So if I saw like a cup, I know I've mentioned this on the show before. If I saw a cup and I was like, I want that in my hand, I could just open my hand and whatever object I see just flies to my hand and I close it.
So you're a Jedi.
Kind of, yeah. It used to be to the point where when I did it, I knew like, oh shit, I'm dreaming. That's how I would check. And now I do it so often. It's like my dream power to the point where I've done it so much, I can do that shit in my dream without becoming aware that I'm dreaming.
All right.
And then I wake up, I'm like, fuck, I moved something in my dream and I didn't even remember it. I don't lucid dream like barely at all anymore. But I remember there was like a good year amount of time where I like lucid dreamed like all the fucking time. It was crazy.
I'm not into that. I'm too scared. Since I was already in the middle of a dream, I simply influenced its plot and had fun flying around and shit. I mean, if you've watched Inception, you know you shouldn't mess with stuff. You're not supposed to mess with stuff.
It's not exactly the point of that movie.
But when you do and they start catching on that you're messing with their world.
Yeah, but that's your dream. It's your own dream's not going to tear you apart.
I mean, you never know.
That's not the rules of Inception. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying it's similar, okay? In the dream, I was with a friend and we were being chased by bad guys. Since I was in control of the dream, I was like, psh, they'll never catch us. I'm omnipotent in this world.
Wow.
For what
Hubris, man.
For what felt like a long time, things were going really well in my world until things started to slowly slip out of my control. It was like every aspect of this dream world was starting to turn against me and I couldn't control everything anymore. Everything started to become abstract and it was as if my subconscious mind, was done with my conscious mind's shit. See, I'm telling you. Inception. It's like your brain's just being like, I know Inception's like you're in someone else's mind and their mind is the one attacking you.
I'm glad you do.
But this story is like you're messing with your mind's world and your mind's world is like, bruh, get the F out.
Your mind pushes back.
I was like, okay, F this. It's time to wake up, but I couldn't. It was like Inception when you change too many things in a dream.
Damn it. I can't believe
everyone
they said
starts
that.
to turn on you. Fuck yeah. Yes. Vindicated. Okay. I remember feeling scared and began to break down. I started to repeatedly yell, "Wake up," as loud as I could. You got to throw yourself off a building, man.
You gotta yell, "Wake me up," and then someone else yells that,
okay,
and then you wake up.
I woke up teary-eyed, repeating the words, "Wake up" in my bed, a Hodor type situation. I was afraid to fall back asleep that night, but luckily this hasn't happened since. Since I listened to your first episode, I've graduated, started a new job, and got my first apartment. Congratulations.
Congrats on all three of
those
things.
Awesome. I'm jealous. With all these changes in my life in the past year, listening to you guys has been one of the only constants in my life that kept me grounded. Yay, that's awesome. Knowing I could always turn you on. Whoa, wait, hold on. That's weird. Knowing I could always turn to you for a scare and a laugh has helped me keep my shit together. I'm not nearly caught up with all the episodes, but I love having a backlog. It's like a fridge that never empties, where I can go when I'm hungry for scarishness and humor. Love you guys, Todd. P.S. Robin, I also had a red sports car VHS tape rewinder. Fuck yeah. When I was a kid, and I always understand your references. I love that when we have spooky
Which
friends.
is shocking because you got the Inception thing before she actually wound up saying it. I think you skipped ahead in this email so you can make a friend.
No, I didn't. I'm great. I am so happy with the fact that I got to read this email. It's great. Yes. Also completely random, but I knew you were Asian American from the first time I heard your voice. Asian connection vibes. That's so awesome. Sorry. Adam, you're cool too.
Thanks.
All right, bye. Have a nice life. Thank you so much, Todd. This is
really
an
good
awesome email. Yeah, and it made me very happy. It's awesome. Thank you.
Good stuff. There's a lot of sleep paralysis going around in these emails, which means that whatever time period that these all came in around, we had just talked about sleep paralysis again, which means in like 6 to 8 weeks, we're probably going to get a bunch of sleep paralysis ones again. Because people just keep having sleep paralysis. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So I guess we could just keep taking your stories because they're always really, really friggin' good. I love the fact that you got made to sleep on a fucking cold floor.
What the F?
And then that happened. Because it's like, there's a comment over in YouTube that I can't wait to read. So I'm just going to say it. It said like, in quotes, I saw that. And then it's quoted to karma.
Yeah.
So like, that's fucking perfect. But yeah, man, like I used to sleep in uncomfortable situations because like my bed was a piece of crap and I'd never be super comfortable. And every time like I wasn't at a good angle, I would have nightmares. And then when I got older, that's when I started triggering sleep paralysis. I noticed like if I wasn't laying like as flat as I could, like I would always feel like I was choking at some point in the night, or like my neck was like too like propped up. And if I ever had that feeling while I was falling asleep, I almost always had sleep paralysis at some point. So I feel like uncomfortable sleep leads to those situations because it's just in your subconscious while you sleep, and it's like It's just something
like,
that makes you uncomfortable.
Well, it's like you can't fully sleep.
Right.
So.
And then you can't fully wake up. It all makes sense now.
All right.
All right. So moving into my last email for this episode, the subject is shareable stories and then an emoji of a cute spooky ghost that looks just like our ghost.
Spooky.
Good work. Oh, I forgot to make the thing for a thing. Okay, it's okay. Starts out like this. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going? I am a new listener, just started last week. I found your podcast on Spotify. Shout out Spotify. On my way to work. In parentheses, I have to drive sometimes 2 hours to get to my job site. I'm a photographer.
Oof.
It's a pretty awesome job, though.
Yeah, it's a great job. Long commute.
And your podcast keeps me entertained and awake, maybe a little freaked out, as sometimes I leave my house before the sun rises. That's totally understandable. I recently listened to an episode that you guys shared a story about dolls. Well, let me tell you some creepy shit. So we're about to read a story about dolls.
Starts like,
with
let me tell you.
2 dolls on our desk now that we've gotten from listeners. One of them from The Amazing Ralph and the other one from Brittany.
That's his official name, The Amazing Ralph.
That just should be on his birth certificate, let's be real. And The Amazing Ralph, the doll that we were given is named Peakies. Pretty sure I'm right about that, right? Said it right? Cool.
Yeah.
And then this one is named Faith. That one's from Brittany. So,
yep.
Okay. I just want to give them shout outs before they turn around and kill me while I read the story. So, story about dolls. I was about 10 or 11 and I was at my friend's house. She had a small collection of porcelain dolls, which we all know are the most haunted. To give you a layout of her room, the bed was on the back wall where your head would be against the wall, and you have space on either side to get off the bed. To the left of the bed was her dresser, and which was older and rather large, with a shelf on the top. Across from that on the right side of the bed was her desk. Her porcelain dolls sat on the top shelf of the dresser. She had this one particular doll called, quote, Ice Princess.
It wasn't Elsa. It's just called Ice Princess.
I think of like mean ladies when I think of Ice Princess. Looking at this doll would send chills down your spine. It's as if she was looking into your soul. Anyways, one day I was lying on my friend's bed and my friend was standing facing her desk. So on the right-hand side of this bed, if I'm following you. For some reason, I became fixated on this doll and I noticed her face and head was turned towards me, seemingly looking back at me.
No way.
I felt like she was staring me down. After a few minutes, I became creeped out and rolled to the right side of the bed. After a few minutes passed, I rolled back over, and this fucking doll had turned to face my friend.
No.
I told my friend, and she put the doll in her closet facing the wall.
No way.
Afterwards, she told me that sometimes...
What if the doll, it like, when they checked on it again, it faced outwards and not against the wall anymore?
Afterwards, she told me that sometimes she feels like she's being pinched at night and thinks it's her doll.
Shut up.
10-year-old me is like, bitch, isn't that something you disclosed before I stayed at your house with your demon doll? Why would you do that to someone who's 10 years old? I wish that were the only time that has happened, but it isn't. She also had another doll that sat on the top shelf of her dresser. This one was plastic and had a pink dress. She was a little bit larger than the other dolls, and she was on a stand. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something at the top of her dresser moving. I looked up to see this doll rocking back and forth on her stand, and then she stopped.
Oh my God,
it's not just seeing something moving and rocking, it's seeing it just come to a stop. That's super creepy. Okay.
I don't want to watch Toy Story 4 now.
I turned away and I can see through the corner of my eye that she started doing it again.
Fuck that.
I faced her and she stopped again. I tried to rationalize it by thinking maybe the washer or dryer is running and it shook the wall a little bit. I grew up in a trailer and that would typically happen, but alas, my friend lived in a one-story brick home with no basement or attic, and the laundry was on the other side of the house.
Oh my God.
In another previous episode, Adam mentioned that he was nice to stuffed animals and dolls, quote, just in case. Stopping right there, quick side story. When I set this shit up, I talked to them. And I tell them, like, we're going to sit you up nice and neat. Okay, I'm going to lay you down really fast. No big deal. Because I don't want them to be offended by anything I do. Not even a joke. Moving back into this. I totally feel them on that because, and I'm sure plenty of other people do the same thing. I sure hope so. I love your podcast, and I love listening to you guys as you remind me of my husband and I.
Aww.
If you ever choose to do a story about the Bermuda Triangle, which we have done since then, I have a shorter story. My grandpa once told me when he lived in Florida, stay spooky, Caitlin. Caitlin, send me that Bermuda Triangle story ASAP. I want to hear it. That was really, really fucking good. That's the thing, man. Like, I get having stuffed animals and toys and dolls. There's just something about porcelain dolls that takes it up a notch where it's like, it's so lifelike. It's almost like a mockery of a child. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like that behavior, like that would be cute if a kid was doing it where they're playing with you, is just ultimately terrifying. Like when you see it and then you see a doll, you're like, you know what? Maybe we should just like stop having fun and burn these dolls or something like that.
All right.
That's just how I feel.
don't. Dolls just creep me out. I have a lot of stuffed animals, but I don't have dolls. Dolls are not some. Well, okay. Do figures count as dolls? They don't have opposable parts. Like, well, okay. No, I take that back. I have Gundams. I can pose my Gundams, but I feel like they don't freak me out like real dolls that have eyes and stuff. Like, okay, that doesn't count.
So there's two of these guys that I'm holding up for our viewing audience right now. What are these called, Robin?
I don't know.
Okay, cool. So these dolls basically are a mockery of a human form. They don't have a face. They have joints. Every spot, basically, a human body would have a joint, and you can pose them. They're made of wood. They're very well made, and they're cute. You have two of them, but they stand there and watch me while I record. And these are the things that creep me out the most. Like if I had a nightmare, like you remember Jurassic Park when those like little tiny creatures like bit someone?
Mm-hmm.
Like I picture these things jumping on me at night in like that exact scene where like blood runs out from underneath the log. That's Jurassic Park 2: The Lost World, my bad. But yeah, these things are terrifying, so I try and respect them and fear them. And I just want to point that out. They're always right here. Every episode we've ever recorded, they've been right here the whole time, just off camera. I don't let you folks see them because I don't want you to have nightmares. So
Al Javar says, I don't have dolls, but having two dolls in front of the laptop. These are new additions. I normally don't go out and buy dolls myself. These are gifts from Spooky Friends, and they stay in here. They don't go anywhere else. They live in the vicinity that is the office. They will never go into the bedroom. That's just not their place.
Maybe a guest room.
So
you never know. When we move, like we might not have a good spot to put them. They might make their way into a guest room.
Yeah.
I don't want to lock them up into a box and put them in the garage ever because I feel like that's just rude to them.
Yeah.
And more importantly to the people who gave them to us, because they do hold a very special place in our heart, even if they terrify us just a little bit. So especially because one of them is from like the Island of Dolls.
Yeah.
So scary stuff.
All right. So I'm going to head into this next email.
Final email of the show.
Yes. And it comes from Jose. And the subject...
Hey, Jose.
Of course you would. The subject is shadows. Hello there, dudes and dudettes. Well, all right. Hello.
What's up? Hello.
My name is Jose from California. Just for starters, I have poor grammar, but thanks to modern technology, the phone can autocorrect my spelling errors. I have many horror/spooky stories that have happened to me, and I'll share one today. In 2017, I started my job. Everything was going smooth until I started to see dark shadows through my peripheral vision at work. I would spot them from afar and ignore it, since I thought it was my imagination playing tricks on me. As time passed, the shadows began to get closer. Soon, I started to see the shadows pass right next to me. I got spooked and asked some of my coworkers if they see shadows. Some told me that I was on drugs. The one told me that he sees them too and never wanted to mention it to anybody. He told me that the shadows were more active in the storage room. Nothing spooky happened to me. I just saw a lot of shadows. I would usually see a lady with a blue dress that had a lot of little white flowers. I never saw her face because once I turned to see her, she would disappear.
Sounds like shadows were like developing into full-blown people.
Yeah, like apparition type things. I don't work there anymore, but I usually think about the dress that had a lot of little white flowers. Oh, wait, holy shit. I mean, you could too, but that's not how the story goes. I don't work there anymore, but I usually think about the shadows and why they were there. I never searched up the location because I don't know how to do that. But it would be nice to know if something horrific happened there. Can't wait to hear my story on your podcast. By the way, I'm Square Pantaloons from Instagram.
What up, Square Pantaloons?
Said that every time I listen to the intro and the ending music from the podcast, that I always imagine the Simpsons organ lady playing their theme song and passes out/dies. Love you guys.
I will say, okay, you're ending it. Go ahead.
Love you guys, and you will hear from me soon. By the way, I love Arnold quotes. Sayonara.
Nice. Good stuff. Now, Square Pantaloons holds a special place in my heart because they messaged this to me, and it's the first person, and to this day, and I'm sure now people will say it too, the only person who has ever 100% fucking nailed the reference I was going for when I was searching for this music. Because I wanted something that was like kind of creepy and kind of upbeat. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I want Inagata DeVita, but I want Inagata DeVita on that fucking organ from that episode of The Simpsons when Bart changes the name to In the Garden of Eden. And they play it, and that song is super long, and the episode begins with the church lady playing it on the church organ, And like it's this fucking awesome epic rock ballad. So when it ends, finally, she just passes out on the organ. So I'm pretty sure, by the way, that is the opening to most people, including my mother's, favorite episode of The Simpsons, which is where Bart loses his soul, which is such a deeply profound episode of any television show ever. And it's a cartoon called The fucking Simpsons, where people have like 4 fingers and they talk about butt sometimes. So I'm just saying, if you've never seen that episode, that's why you're not like so excited to talk about this right now.
I didn't really watch The Simpsons growing up.
It's a beautiful episode of television. It's so good. And like, just to break it down really fast, like they learn about the concept of a soul. Bart thinks it's stupid. His friend Milhouse, who's like the nerd, is like, if you think it's stupid, you should sell me your soul for $5. So he writes down Bart Simpson's soul on a piece of paper and gives it to Milhouse. And then bad things start happening to him. And it's really weird things at first, and then it starts getting worse and worse. Like sliding doors won't open for him. His dog is growling at him now. And like Lisa, who's his smart sister, you know, starts telling him like the philosophies behind the soul and like it could actually be something, even though like she's fairly like not about religion in the show. And then it becomes like this journey for him to get his soul back, because he goes to get it back from Milhouse, and Milhouse tells him like he's going to charge him $50 for the soul instead of $5. And all this shit happens, and the soul keeps getting sold to other people and like drifting away from him. And then like in the end, like he goes home because he couldn't find his soul and he's super depressed, and he prays. And like he asks God to help him, to send him his soul back, because he's so sorry he gave it up. And then his soul falls down from the sky and lands on his bed.
That's when Lisa's the one that...
Lisa bought it for him. Yeah. And she tells him like, some philosophers think that you don't just get born with a soul, you have to earn your soul. And what you did tonight probably earned you your soul. And they cut back to Bart, and he's eating the fucking piece of paper. And then the episode ends with his dog sleeping in his bed with him.
Aww.
And he's super happy. And this is not a joke. This is 100% true. When this episode came out, I was in 5th grade. And I was like, only an idiot would sell their soul. And my friend Lee goes, I'll sell you my soul for $5. And I was like, all right, you're an idiot. So he wrote Lee so-and-so's soul on a piece of paper, and I gave him $5. And directly after that, bad stuff started to happen to Lee, like a bunch, to the point where he paid me the money back after about a week. And when I gave him that piece of paper back, he ate that fucking piece of paper in the middle of class. Like, that's how like serious he was. Like, he was scared. Like, bad shit would not stop happening to him. That is 100% true. If I text Lee right now, you remember when I bought your soul? He'll say something about the fact that he ate that piece of paper and fixed everything. So I love that episode of The Simpsons, and it always reminds me of my stupid friend Lee. Shout out. He doesn't listen, so I'll let him know I told this story, and then maybe he'll listen to it. But yeah, good stuff.
All right. So thanks everyone who joined us for the Storytime episode and for the marbles races. If you folks haven't ever joined us for the live shows, please, twitch.tv/scarishpodcast. You guys can follow us on there, and then you'll get notified whenever we go live, which is Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, of course. Hopefully you can join us. We do these races at the end of our episodes every week.
Don't tell them.
What? Don't tell them?
You have to join us to see what the races are.
All right.
But you can win some free stuff.
All right. And then we had some really great stories this week, and we're so happy that you folks send them to us all the time. And if you have stories out there that you would like to share with us, some amazing homegrown horrors, please reach out to us, storytime@scaryish.com, or go to our website, scaryish.com, go to our contact us page. There's a little form there. You can fill it out, put your story in there, and it'll send that to us. But
social medias, Twitter is @ScarishPod, Instagram @ScarishPodcast, Facebook is facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. You can reach out to us there if you want. That's always accepted. We want your stories, even if you don't want them shared. You just want to have a dialogue or tell someone so you don't feel crazy. We are here for that. Plenty of folks do it. Do not feel like you're intruding on us. We sincerely insist. So aside from that, Robin, folks always ask, like, how can we support the podcast? We have 2 ways they can support us financially, and what are those?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. It's like I don't say it every week or something. Patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. The tiers start at $1, and that gets you early access, access to exclusive content that we post. If you do the $3 tier, you get to help us choose topics, like we had patrons help us choose this past week, which is awesome. So hopefully you guys join us there. And then we do have coffee, ko-fi.com/scaryish-podcast. Those are one-time donations. All those donations will help us upgrade our studio setup and upgrade our computer, which will be super cool.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you to everyone who supports us and reaches out to us and lets us know that like what we do is something that you want to listen to, because it makes us want to keep doing it. It really does.
Yeah,
so.
And we can't do it without you.
We can't. We absolutely can't. And we just want to say that we appreciate every one of you. And we're always excited to do these. We sincerely are. And if you haven't joined us live, like Robin said, try it out sometime. It's a fun time. So I think that's just about everything that we have for Storytime number 72. Lots of Storytime. So Robin, sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.